Welcome to Conversations with Friends. I'm Meredith, and I'm always in search of people that I feel are making a difference in South Florida and beyond, and people that are just digging deeper into situations in life and just things that might be happening in the world or spiritually. This is a spiritual website, as most of you know if you watch regularly. And I come across people all different ways. I could read about that. There's so many different ways, see them on the internet. But I met our guest tonight through a friend who had gone through something very, very traumatic, and I asked her, well, how did you've improved so much. You're different. You don't seem the same person as you did, over the last year. And she told me that this person made such a difference in her life and helped her in her healing process. And her name is Viviane Ariella. Viviane is a psychologist. She is also very involved in spiritual kinds of things. She's been kind of on her own spiritual search for quite a few years now. And I just thought she would be the perfect person to talk about an issue or a situation that seems to be talked about a lot now. And it has to do with loneliness. There's more people who are, with all of this research, who are feeling that they're really lonely, in this world now, more lonely than ever before. Maybe because of COVID, probably, but are still recovering from that. And not just that, but they're feeling like just not connected to the world. And some of it might have to do with the fact, there's a lot of reasons that, so we're going to explore them right now. So Viviane, I'm so happy to have you on the program. And I guess I want to talk to you about this whole feeling about loneliness. What's happened that people do feel this way more than ever?
I think it is a number of things. First of all, thank you for having me. Thank you very much. It's truly a pleasure to be here with you. A few things, I like what you said, COVID. I think that was a huge turning point, and the recovery of it, right? Things have never been the same since on so many levels. I also think the rise of this social media situation we have going on, where people connect through these platforms that can be smoke and mirrors. It's not always based in reality. It's just what you want to convey to your viewers. And I think that has also impeded on their just motivation to, go outside, like legit just go outside and do activities outside, whether it's sports, hobbies, dating, everything has changed. But on a deeper level, people who are addicted to scrolling or hide behind a screen, or perhaps are suffering from whatever happened during COVID, it's a loss of connection to self, right? So it's the loss of connection to yourself, and is that obviously we're connected to one another. So a loss of connection to nature, it's very spiritual, a loss of connection to a higher power. If one believes in a higher power, people believe in many different things, and it's not about a particular denomination, but it's connection, right? So it's the loss of connectivity, in addition to what I just said with social media and perhaps whatever happened in COVID.
And I'm thinking too, the uncertainty in the world. Every minute it's something else. Every minute, something changed, something fearful. Someone that I know that's, very actually has always been involved with, doing things that can be of help in the world and everything. And I asked her feelings about, what's going on and different, in terms of news items. And she just said to me, for the first time ever, she just said, I have no answers. I don't even know. I don't even know what it is we do. She used to be more of an activist. We should do this, we should do that. And she goes, I just can't provide answers anymore. And so I was thinking that maybe people feel, they see what's happening in the world, and there's a feeling of that what is it that they can do, and because they can't really do anything, or they feel that they can, and I definitely feel the opposite, and mentioned what you just said earlier just now. They feel that they can't do, then you begin to feel kind of like you just, life is, there's a feeling of emptiness inside, isn't it? A feeling of like loss of purpose, maybe. Do you
Yes,
think?
it's a feeling of learned helplessness. And in addition to what you're saying, which is absolutely true, I agree with you with the state of the world. It seems
Yeah.
like anytime you turn anything on, it's in your face and it's happening in real time because of technology, which on one hand, it is so wonderful what it
Hmm.
has done and provided us. But on the flip side, you're literally watching things happening real time at a multitude. And sometimes propaganda, sometimes it's accurate and everybody's arguing with each other. And it's just like the level of trauma. And sometimes there are not even like these disclaimers like traumatic trigger, beware. Like I've gone on these, holes where somehow there was no warning, and the things that I've seen, I can't unsee them. So purpose purpose and meaning,
Purpose.
that's something that I
Beautiful.
wanted to talk about because that is at the core of being connected, right? Like to yourself, like what is your true purpose? And it's not about what you do, it's not about being a parent, it's not about any of those things. It's about, fundamentally who you are at your core innately, like your essence, and connecting and tapping into that, connecting into source, that's connecting into love. You are love, connecting to a higher, greater purpose. Like we're so small in the grand scheme of like this incredible, enormous microcosm. So
I'm glad that you mentioned that, connecting to your purpose, because people often go through life feeling, okay, my purpose is my work. The person's a doctor, or they're in business, or whatever it is, or their children, they feel that's my purpose. That doesn't last forever, does it? And even if you're still on the job, the situations come up where you start to feel like maybe you can't make the difference that you once did, or the work is changing so quickly that you don't know what you're going to do next. I mean, or you want to leave but you don't feel that you can because of the monetary parts. I mean, there's so many things. So I'm just wondering, well, I'm not wondering, I just want to reflect together on how a lot of people come to you, and they're kind of not in tune necessarily. They come to you and they're sad, they're lonely, right? They're afraid, those kinds of things.
mm,
And so they come to you and they're not necessarily on some kind of a spiritual path, are they? And they might not even know about the power of spiritual, deep spirituality to help heal. So
I
what do you
agree.
do?
I
Yeah.
agree.
How do you help them with that? Yeah.
So most people aren't, some are, which is always very welcomed, and it's fun to work with
Yeah.
someone who's already there. But regardless, most aren't. And talking about purpose, I know working with my own healers of
Mm.
very deep spiritual practices, and
Mm.
none of them have ever known each other, and they've all told me, and I've always felt it, that my main it's not even about the psychology. I'm here to assist others in tapping into their own spirituality, whatever it is. It doesn't matter what you believe in, just to believe in something or to stay curious. And I think that's a really important word, curiosity,
Yeah.
and being open to that, because once you start digging deep into the subconscious, and it's not about religion, it's truly about a spiritual practice, a spiritual way of life, of living. That's when we start connecting to source, to yourself. You are the source.
That's extremely deep. I think you just got to the essence of really everything is connecting to yourself and to something higher. And I am assuming then that you have seen people just kind of have a bit of an awakening, right? Where they just suddenly they get it. They come in to be fixed, like for you to put a band-aid on what they're feeling, right? Or maybe a whole bandage, if they're really in trouble.
Yeah.
But you take them in another direction, don't you?
I do. I do. And it is so rewarding when I am able to witness that in real time and be there as a conduit holding space. You know, the client does all the work. I'm there to just guide. And if they're curious and open, I certainly can and will take you there. I have to be careful because sometimes people are just not ready. So I can't force anybody, but I definitely nudge. But as it's occurring, I mean, everything in their world just completely opens up, even their eyes, right? The light in their eyes changes. Uh, their mood obviously changes. They start reinventing themselves. They find different paths and careers. And I think it's really important to remind everyone that it's never too late to reinvent yourself at any age whatsoever. It doesn't matter the age. It doesn't matter if you've had the same job for 30 years. It doesn't matter if you're in a relationship that, you know that you've outgrown, whatever the case may be. Maybe it has nothing to do with that. But it's about connecting to yourself and having the courage. It takes great courage to meet yourself, meet yourself where you're at, and to enter that cave that holds all the pain and the fears and the traumas and the insecurities that keep a person kind of like in these emotional shackles from daring to step outside of that box. But when it does happen and it occurs, and it's literally why I guess I was called to do this work. I don't see that all the time. I do see it often. It truly depends on the person's willingness to stay curious, open, and what they're doing in between our sessions. And it's just beautiful. It's
Oh,
beautiful.
it has to be gratifying for you to watch someone change, because when they come in, like you said, they're not there yet. I mean, some are, but many aren't, because it's not something, even though a lot of, things are out there today, spirituality and meditation. And my experience has been most people haven't really tried it. They might have tried to meditate for, a little bit, or maybe put on a recording, or, something on YouTube. But it really requires a journey, doesn't it? It's
Yes,
not like a weekend getaway and you go to a retreat and it's over. It requires a voyage, which
yes,
is
I like
longer,
that.
right?
Voyage and discipline because
Yeah.
mental muscle. And I did see like at the start of COVID, even though it feels like so long ago, it really wasn't that long ago.
Was
It was a requirement. Like once I switched everybody to virtual sessions, like it was
uh-huh.
always a requirement that we needed to meditate together because I just saw the decompensation of so many people every day.
Hmm.
And my elderly population, they were the most hesitant
Hmm. They are, yeah.
about it. But even they finally jumped, and now they literally meditate. They're not my clients anymore, but I check in on them every now and then. They meditate by themselves all the time. I recommended some apps. I mean, anybody can truly do it. Children do it. I do it with children. I have family members that have taught their children to do it. It's in schools. It should be something that, I mean, in my personal opinion, it should be a curriculum in the schools. If I had been taught meditation at a young age, I wonder where I would be. And something that I discovered on my own because I was always really curious at a very young age for the metaphysical. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm what you're saying, I totally connect with that. And but what I am seeing is, honestly, like you said, the older generation, this was not part of their life. And younger people today, I mean, I seem to just get to meet a lot of them through projects that I'm involved with. And they just, oh, that's just maybe they're not doing it, but they are open to it. They're not feeling like, oh, that's weird stuff, or what is that? Or they don't ask those questions. If they're not doing that, then, but they know that they should be, almost. And so there's not much you have to say to them except, oh, I meditate, I study spirituality, and they're ready. They really are. So that's one of the, we're talking about all the negatives of social media and everything like that, but there's a lot of positives because these kinds of themes, you got to make sure that you're doing the right thing and with the right people or whatever. These kinds of things, though, are out there now, aren't they?
Yes,
And they're
absolutely.
available for people. It's no longer some secret place that you have to go to learn to meditate with people that you might not be able to connect with. So I feel, I always say this, that I feel that this next generation and the ones coming up now are the ones that are really going to be able to create change because
Hope so.
they've come into it at this stage, as bad as things might seem in the world. Do you feel that way? Like they can be the change makers? And
Oh, children are always the future, the change makers. And obviously all the apps that are now available,
right.
all the
Yeah.
therapeutic apps, the spiritual apps, the meditation apps, it's all so nicely organized and user friendly. There's programs and file folders, and depending on how you wake up that day, you can find so many different meditations. It's beautiful. So that is the positive flip side of technology and social media. I just feel like, there needs to be some type of limit. Going on maybe some detoxes like social
Mm,
media. Uh,
mm,
this is always a good idea, even if it's for a day, a weekend, a week.
yeah.
Maybe certain times of the day, people reach for their phones. I'm
Right.
totally guilty of that at times. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. But I don't do that, where it's about me, myself, my music. I usually play a sport or I'm outside. I need to be outdoors to sort of regulate. And I think that's the thing, like getting people outside again, right? I mean, I used to get lost on my bike for hours when I was little, and now
Mm,
it's all about like everybody on a headset playing with one another.
mm. Yeah, yeah. Someone just told me that, that they go to an exercise class like that. And I said the same thing to myself. And that's fine because, it keeps you in shape and everything. But for me, it's the same thing. I need to have some outside time. Maybe not every day, but a few times a week to there's a park near my house and I need to have that walk in the park. Or, it's not the same for me to either stay in my house and do an exercise or even go to a gym. I believe in that as well. But um, it's interesting because we're talking about loneliness and people being alone. But, if you think of any spiritual practice, it's all about being alone. That's what the emphasis is definitely on. It's not about, people feel lonely because they're not connected and they don't really know how to go within. They
Mhm.
don't know how to experience solitude or aloneness. But wouldn't you say that? I mean, from what I see, every spiritual practice involves being alone, learning how to be alone,
Mhm.
not feeling that you got to run out. I know some people, they run out every night of the week, and that's sometimes I wonder, is that an escape too? And I'm not judging anyone, but it can be an escape, right? If you
Absolutely,
have to
yeah.
be,
And there's a big difference between aloneness and being alone and loneliness. The loneliness is where the toxicity comes in.
yeah.
Alone is very, very healthy. And you're right, meditating and all of these spiritual practices is isolating in that it's you and your journey connecting with yourself, and the whole universe is inside of you. So you have to tap into that. But on the other side, just like your center and other places that offer group meditations, right?
Mhm.
Power in numbers. That's why the Buddhist monks were so powerful. And that's still a thing. That's still very important. Sometimes people want to have that inward journey, like even as simple as a sound bath journey, right? Where you go and they play these beautiful instruments or the gong. I love going to things like that.
Oh yeah. Are you talking about the drum? We had him on the program. If that's what you're talking about, it's a whole group of people drumming and
Well, they're
or
everywhere.
making sounds. Yeah, the sounds. Yeah,
Any
that's
sound bath, like a sound bath or
yeah,
different
yeah.
means different
Uh-huh.
instruments, and it's
Yeah.
all inward because nobody's experiencing that very same sensation that the next person is, but you're all together in the same room, and that there's a really special connectivity there because although you're alone, you're with others, and at the
Yeah.
end of the day, it's all about the human connection and connecting with other people, whether human beings, and we're not meant to do this alone. It's all about
Interesting. you're right, because we meditate as a group, the Brahma Kumaris, and we even have a retreat center in upstate New York, and there could be, 100 people there together meditating, but you have your aloneness, you're alone meditating, but you don't feel alone. You feel like you're part of something. So, I mean, I think that's a big thing, to feel like you're part of something greater, to feel that
Absolutely.
you're connected to people rather than seeing people as they're different than I am, or they don't understand me, or they don't. This requires, I'm thinking people really have to kind of be able to reach out today if you do have a situation, either get professional help or go to a center, meditate or study or read things that can help bring you out of that, right? I mean, bring you out of feeling alone. Uh, or you can be alone, but not lonely, I should say.
Exactly. I mean, you can be married, have a whole house full of people, and still be the loneliest person on the block. It doesn't even necessarily mean about you just being like one person. It's about
Mm-hmm.
being connected. And you're right, like reach out, whether it's a center like yours, or it's a therapist, or it's a
Mm-hmm.
spiritual shaman, or it's a retreat center,
Mm-hmm.
or it could be your local yoga studio.
Exactly.
It's just about its community. We're not meant to do this alone. Um, Connectivity and community is the single biggest, most important factor in resiliency to overcome trauma, depression, anything like that. And obviously, when someone's severely depressed,
Yeah.
it's really difficult. They can't even think about like asking for help. They feel like a burden. So it's also, I think, really important that we keep an eye on one another.
Mm-hmm.
If you see someone struggling or disappearing or acting very, very differently than what they normally act like, I think, just reach out, because that one call I've heard from several people I've worked with throughout the years, especially veterans, that they had like a 9mm ready to pull the trigger, but their cousin called, or like the neighbor rang,
Mm-hmm.
or it could be something very unrelated, but that call or knock saved their life, and it stopped that thought process. And it's important to look out for one another.
So getting them before, something really awful does happen, being in tune with people, in tune with, you can feel people's vibes and what they say. And, there are a lot of people, not just that they feel alone, they're really, I think you're saying too, is depressed today. People are depressed and they don't even know that they are, do they? They just know that they don't want to get up out of bed. They don't want to do anything. They're very cynical. Maybe they're drinking a lot, or, they're doing things that are definitely not helping them. In fact, it's actually, they're probably making them sicker.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I like what you're saying, is that we should be in tune with people in our lives and maybe try to help them get help. And I know that sometimes you can't force people, but you can tell a person, look, this helped me. I know that I've shared with people, in my life, is the meditation, the center. They might not go to the meditation center, even if I recommend it, but maybe they start meditating another way. But just planting the seed, isn't it, for them to get help, some kind of help, because whatever's going on isn't working. It's not working. It's it's a world where it's just like the uncertainty of everything, as I talked about earlier, is like, I think people, and change every second, there's change in the world. And I don't think that we were meant to be having to move so quickly, just constantly changing and adapting and adjusting. And, it's the only thing we can do is work on ourselves and slow down ourselves, right?
Yes, slowing
You
down
know.
is important. Stillness speaks, like that book. I
Mm.
think I totally wrote it. But the answers are in the stillness, in the caves, in
Yeah.
that solitude and silence.
It-
But a lot of people distract themselves, like you said, like they're always running out, or they're always scrolling, or whatever it is to avoid. It's an avoidance, an
yeah.
escape. But
And just moving, people that feel that they have to keep moving, and I think we mentioned that earlier, just they have to keep doing. And that's kind of an escape, isn't it? I mean, it's good to do things, but if
Sure.
every second you feel that you have to have your schedule full and you feel, well, you're doing things, then that's great. But there has to be that downtime. You have to take care of yourself, right? Internally.
Yeah, that's when the
Mm.
brain repairs, and that's when your central nervous system, it's soothed and nurtured and cared for. It has to come back to homeostasis and literally repair itself.
Yeah, because the Brahma Kumaris do believe, in reincarnation. I
Yeah,
mean, it's one of their, part of their teachings. And so I was really interested to hear about how you use this in your practice.
sure.
Tell
So
me.
I'm a certified hypnotherapist, and my certification is good for anywhere in the world.
Mm.
So
Whoa.
with therapy, I'm only able to treat people who live in Florida. With hypnosis or past life, I can help anybody anywhere. And
Hmm.
the type of past life regression that I was trained in is trauma reconstruction.
Mm.
And it's fascinating and beautiful. I've been interested in this since I was literally in my teens.
Really?
In my teens, I'm an old soul and I was very curious. And but finally I got certified in this a few years ago. It's so second nature to me. It's as if I've been doing it all my life. And even before I was doing it, I would have spiritual healers that were clairvoyant, and they would tell me, you're supposed to be doing past life regression, because even in my regular therapy, sessions
Yeah.
when I first started.
Uh-huh.
And by the way, I graduated at 40 with my doctorate. I had a whole other life before. I was in fashion and music. So I reinvented myself. And at 40,
Really?
yeah, in my
Whoa.
30s, I went back to school and I knew I just needed something. The fashion and music was fun, but didn't feed my soul. And I'm
Mm.
a deep existential human. So anyway, I started this whole life in my 40s. And with the past life, when I was doing the therapeutic clients, and even in my training in my early 30s, I just had a way of like going in there. I'd be told a narrative in session, and I just would pluck out the main, like I would just, like what you said, oh, you just nailed it. Like I would just be able to like see things, and they're like, I've never said that to anybody, but it would have taken like 5 or 8 sessions to get to that point, and I can just point it out. So with that intuition and gift, it's a gift that I do not take lightly, and I
Mm.
very much. I when we do our past life, I like to do I can do those remotely. In person is a whole different vibe, as you said. I use
Yeah.
all equipment. I have headphones on. The client has headphones on. I have a microphone. I play music. Um, I use binaural frequency waves for visuals and for audio, and it's a whole voyage. It's a voyage, and we can go to so many different places, but I've seen and have heard from clients that have had the courage and have
Hmm.
been curious enough to do this, that it was like life changing. I had it done to me, obviously, in order for me to be able to do this. And it's
To be
fascinating.
regressed. You mean you
Yes, I had
went through
somebody
the
do it
process?
to
Yeah.
me, obviously, and it's always fascinating, like the fears and phobias that we have in this life. I always
Hmm.
count it to something that happened in a past life, and then the connections that we have with these soul ties and our soul contracts that we're born into this world with certain people, even the people that repel us or that we have so much friction with. That's a karmic past life connection there as well. It needs to be looked at and needs to be honored for whatever it is that's teaching us, because honestly, our biggest, greatest masters are the ones that challenge us the most. So I think it's for that level, just tapping into source again, like way back when.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
really
I could talk
beautifully
about this
said.
for hours.
I know the feeling too, is where I've met people and I just feel this person has been in my life before. We've somehow been together. And sometimes these are people that I can't even tell this to. I mean, they look at me like they would, because they're not ready yet. But I know, and I know, where there might be a little friction, not a problem, but something, because they're not getting me, I think. And but there's also a feeling of connection to them, that I know this person. I know this person. I have a family member actually, who has a young family member, who has said to me, I knew you in a past life, a very young one, like 9.
Beautiful.
And actually, I'll say it, it's my granddaughter, and who says, I knew you. And I'm like, and I'm pretty sure she was my mother in a past life, and she treats me
Oh,
like that now, you know. So, and I never
that is
expected,
amazing.
I never pushed her. I never tried to say anything to her because I didn't want to disrupt anything in their family or anything. And it's so interesting to me because people, when you just open them up to these things, what happens? You know, if they're meant to get it, they will, won't they?
That's really special that your granddaughter is saying that to you.
Yeah, it was a shock, to hear it. Um, yeah, so if you would now, we've discussed a lot, and this is fascinating to me, if you were to maybe give one message to people that you think could really help them in their life, and we've covered a lot because you have a lot, of experience and just desire to help others, with these different ways of thinking and living. But is there one message you would give?
One message, one word. I've
One word?
never,
Oh,
one word.
and what is
Forgive,
that?
forgive.
Oh, that is beautiful. Forgive. We carry things with us where we still haven't forgiven people, huh? For
Forgive.
lifetimes, yeah, yeah, or a
Lifetimes and
lifetime.
lifetimes, and that's what you can work through with the subconscious mind, whether it's meditation or hypnotherapy, past life regression, plant therapy, psychedelics, so whatever you're called to do, just make sure that you go to a reputable, respected, legit conduit.
Sure.
Forgive, because let me tell you, even when you think you've forgiven, and then
Mm,
you're triggered by the same person or someone else, it could be a complete stranger, and that inner child wants to pop up and react the way he or she did when they were, a young little child. You know,
uh-huh.
you've got some more forgiving to do, because
Yeah.
you'll never be free. And it's hard. It's so hard. And who am I to say that another person who was severely betrayed or abused has to forgive? It's about trying to find peace in whatever occurred, not for the other person, but for you to be able to move on and let go and release that tie that binds. But as long as we're harboring ill will, vengeance, hatred, whatever it is, yeah, but no, but you're never going to literally, it's an umbilical cord, an invisible umbilical cord that must be cut. And it's through forgiveness. And maybe it takes a whole lifetime to forgive, but at
Hmm.
least trying to do that, I think is very important.
I think what you've just said is definitely one of the most important things that we can all learn in our lives, to forgive. And it's very healing. I know that. And even if the person doesn't respond to us, we know that we have forgiven them and we're okay, and we can send them good wishes and love. And I think thank you for sharing that. I,
And I want to reiterate that maybe it isn't even about sending the person good wishes and love. If you can get to that point, amazing. Maybe
hmm
simply as forgiving. And that doesn't mean that if that person's still around, that they have access to you. Access can be
hmm
denied. It's called boundaries. And that's really important too. If you're able to repair the relationship, wonderful. If not, that's okay too. And sometimes that's necessary when you're dealing with very sick, abusive individuals. So at the very least, just finding forgiveness and acceptance for what was. It doesn't mean you accept or condone what happened so that you can move on. Sometimes people are like, they equate forgiveness with like, okay, well then everything's fine. No, no, not necessarily. Like you can definitely have an ocean between you,
Yeah.
metaphorically or physically speaking. But it's just about uh letting go of that hatred I don't know.
Yeah, you have to get that out of your system, and that only can happen through releasing it. And like you say, forgiving, Viviane, we're out of time here. We could talk all day. It's just really a delight to get to meet someone like you that's really
Oh,
been on the path. So you're not just helping people, you're helping yourself as you help people. And I think that's why you have such an effect, on people that
thank
you
you so
treat, because you've been there and you're doing the work. You are doing the work. I can see that. The work on yourself to become,
much.
whatever it is you want to become in your life. And that's beautiful. So Viviane Ariola, it's just a pleasure to be here with you and to get to talk with you. And again, I think we could go on and on.
Yes.
You'll have to come back sometime soon. But thank you so much, for saying yes and just sharing all of these experiences and all of the work that you've done. Great
Thank
to
you
talk
so
with you.
much. You too. You're a delight. Thank you.
And thank you, Mita Saxena, who is our technical director, also a teacher at the Brahma Kumaris Meditation Center, among other things that she does, which is many things she does at the Brahma Kumaris Center in Miami. And I thank all of you for watching and listening. And I just love, when we get to have people like Viviana, who really are sharing their experiences from such an honest place and with so much just desire to help others. And I think that's where we all should be, right? I mean, or we can all be that way, just wanting to help the world, help ourselves to help the world. Om Shanti.